Okay, what's up, everybody? It's 101 Weekly 18, episode 18. And we've been surviving the last 6 weeks with this worldwide pandemic and still trying to give you guys some proper love and a decent show with our wonderful panel. And I just want to introduce them now, as always. We've got Bertram. How you doing, Bertram? How's New York?
As usual, the death rate has come down somewhat. I think we only had 300 plus yesterday or today, based on what Cuomo has been providing to us. Cuomo has become a star in tragic times, which is really interesting. I still say I'm not impressed, and people give me a hard time about that because he seems presidential. But what people don't realize is that I judge people based on outcomes. And if you have 20,000 deaths with 19 million people, that doesn't translate well to me. So if you think about Germany or some other countries actually, which have gone through this, and look, the numbers may change over time, but you haven't necessarily stemmed the tide. We were slow off the blocks, and when you slow off the blocks and don't put social distance in place timely, as you see, like in India, for example, which the number should be much worse, but if put in place timely, you'll be in a better place. You know, if you go to India and see the fact that in Bombay and those places, you can't have social distancing. It's not possible, given how places are constructed. And I'm sure the numbers there will get much worse, but at least they're managing. We're not really managing in New York, regardless of what anyone says. So.
Yeah, I was looking at that today. I was actually watching Kumar's press conference today, and he was talking about how everything is starting to not flatten, but start to come down on the trend. And he was saying the worry now is that it spikes back up. But I think that the overall issue with him is the honesty. He's been honest about everything, and people want that. People have been told so many different things. But with Kumar, when it's bad, he'll tell you it's bad. And, when he was late with it, he said, okay, I could have been earlier. I could have been quicker with the reactions. So I think the honesty with him is what people really like. It's definitely what I like. I know what I'm going to get when I listen to Kumo. And, you guys are in a lucky position. There are states. I mean, look what happened when the Las Vegas mayor was talking the other day. I mean, you're lucky you've got a straight shooter in Kumo, Bertram.
Well, for a country that has so much intellectual capital, it's amazing that our elected official, even at the zenith of the country, doesn't provide that comfort, that statesmanship, that leadership that would exemplify someone who manages either a state, a city, or a country, frankly. So the comparative, and Cuomo's being compared to you-know-who, and it's not even a fair comparison.
Yeah,
right? It's like comparing Arsenal to a League 4 side. Well, I shouldn't use Arsenal because we struggle. Let's say compare Liverpool to a League 4 side. It's just not a fair comparison.
And Stephen has said, I don't think he's had the presidential backing. And 18 has said he should run for office. Yeah, and that's a conversation for my lockdown dailies. It would be definitely there because I've talked about the favoritism that certain people are getting and other people not so much. And the evening to Kez as well. Kez, actually on time today, mate. Actually on time. And welcome to Ebony as well. Ebony, how's your week gone? How's your week gone?
It's gone all right. I do two radio shows on community stations. So I did one today on Earth Authority. My other one is Galaxy, which is both of which are very informative radio stations. So I've been doing that today. Other than that, I've just been chilling, doing some workouts, getting my ass busted by my PT. And it's just been otherwise a relaxing week. Had my car sorted out and stuff like that because luckily I found a couple of garages that are open. But yeah, it's been
This guy.
Unfortunately, I can't see without my glasses. 18, but thank you anyway.
He calls you his Nubian princess, and he's gonna. This guy's really trying it on. Tony,
the press is on. The press is on.
Tony, how are you getting on, Tony, man? How's your week been?
Oh, okay. Listen, I think we might need to rename the show.
Kez says, every time my daughter hears your name being called out, Ebony, it stops her in her tracks. Being a namesake.
Okay.
I've
Well,
met
you got
her,
good
actually.
taste in names.
Yeah, I have met Kez's family. Beautiful family. It's got a wonderful.
I must say, it's a beautiful name, man.
Beautiful one.
There's no better name than Ebony. It's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
Anyway, Tony, how's your week been?
Yeah, Groundhog Week again. You know, I look after my son. I home educate. I do my workouts every day. I eat healthily. Today's been a super day, actually. Done a lot of. My son's only just come this afternoon, so this morning I had a really heavy workout. So yeah, putting it in, looking good.
Excellent. So guys, let's kick it off straight away because the chat room is starting to fill up now. We've got 7 people watching, so let's get on with it now. Not a lot to talk about today, but we'll cover it as we go on. The most important thing, and this actually dropped today. It may have dropped yesterday, but I didn't really check the news. And we know that Aubameyang's father made a comment to say his son needs to sign the thing, and everybody started doing the sign the thing Theo Walcott thing again. But what we've been hearing now, and this is broken by John Cross in the Mirror, by the way. John is normally a very informative guy. I know he has very good Arsenal sources and contacts. And for him to say that Arsenal have reportedly ended, they've withdrawn the contract offers to Aubameyang, and that tells me one thing. That tells me that they are definitely looking to sell him this summer, which I thought they were going to do anyway. You know, here's the thing. I know some people have been saying, yeah, no, we need to sign him. We need to sign. Guys, I know everybody wants that because we wish it. But if you've offered him 2 contracts and he's not signing, what more can you do? You can't hold a gun to his head. So when you get into this situation where the player has all the power and you're left with nothing, at some point a team that's been run properly will have to make that decision to withdraw the contract. And it seems like, I don't know, remember this is unconfirmed, it's only been reported in the Mirror today, but it seems like that they've had enough and they want to move on from it. They want to make plans about what they're going to do by replacing him and reinforcing elsewhere. So Bertram, and guys in the chat as well, I want to know your opinion on this because it's only just broke. But it does mean that Arsenal, F true, is ready to put this to bed and move on. And to be honest with you, I don't think they had a choice because, like I said, they really don't have much options. He either signs, which he hasn't, or he doesn't. Yeah, Bertram, what's your views on this?
So those who fail to learn from history are doomed to failure, fundamentally. And 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I was very vociferous in my perspective on we should not sign Ozil and we should sell Sanchez. And we're getting 60 million from City. And we spend time dilly-dallying, not realizing that if I'm the player, there's no way I'm signing the contract. And I go into my last year and double my comp. Ramsey getting paid £400,000 a week. Ramsey tells you everything you need to know. Sanchez getting 400,000, Ozil 350. You can't get rid of these players. So I understand those players to say, look, it's going to cost you 40 million to sign me. You pay me another 150, average it out to be 4. That makes a lot of sense financially for the club signing you initially. But subsequent to that, when that club wants to sell you, there's no market because there's a fee plus your compensation. And I'm not sure why teams don't realize that it just doesn't work. Aubameyang has been great for us, 60-plus games in 90-something.
Yeah.
No, not comparable to any other striker, period. Maybe a Harry Kane somewhat, and Aguero. But if you think about it, there is no way we should not be financially prudent and say, look, you spent 2 years with us, loved your service, you've been a great servant. We think you love the club, but you have to make your own personal decision, maybe your last contract. And we have to be financially responsible and do not put ourselves in a situation like Ozil. Now, Ozil is why Ramsey left, because Ramsey wanted Ozil's money or something close to it, right, in his last year. So if you haven't learned from history, you haven't learned from the situations that are occurring, not within your club, but around you, I'm not sure when you will ever learn.
Although Bertram, it wasn't the same front office in charge of the Ramsey situation. That's
doesn't matter, actually. It doesn't matter who the front office was. As you hear from the Man U, Woodward was saying that after the situation, it will not be business as usual. I think he's trying to set up something to the marketplace that Man U don't want to spend 100 million to buy, like a Sancho. Yeah. What he's basically saying is he's got to be much more financially prudent. We will not have as much funds to go around. And if you pay, Aubameyang would not take £200,000 a year. That's what he makes now. He wants a substantial raise, and his production suggests that. So, to make a long story short, Aubameyang, thanks for your service. If we can get 40, 50 million for you, we can take it and reinvest it. We can buy Partey, because I think we do need more midfielders versus forwards. And good luck to you. This is not a Van Persie situation or one of those situations in the past. This is a different situation.
Yeah, and to cover that up, Van Persie was 29 when he left. Now, when you give a 29-year-old a new contract, you at least know for 3 years he's going to be 32 years old when it ends. Aubameyang is 31 in June. So giving him a 3-year deal means that he'll be with you until he's 34. So you've got a guarantee that if you're paying a guy 300 or 400 grand a week, you've got a guarantee that at 34 years old, he has to be giving you some production. Otherwise, that is a bad deal all over. And this is the thing where we see in NBA and the NFL as well. Not a lot of teams are willing to give a player, even when Ibrahimovic left and he ended up going to Man United, nobody else really wanted him at that time. Then he ended up going Frankfurt Galaxy. He was still banging in the goals. But what we're talking about here is bagging a long-term contract. Very hard to do when you're 31 years old. He's going to find that very difficult for his agent to get an offer that he really wants. So for him, I think it would be more, yes, it would be about a bit of money, but it would be more in terms of him winning something, because he ain't won anything, has he? I mean, literally won nothing. Yeah? Sorry, Bertram, you're on mute. You're on mute, Bertram.
Yeah, my last point of this is this. I'm not concerned about him and his age, because frankly, I see him being more like a Jamie Vardy, real slim, no history of injuries, still has his speed, even at 31, hasn't lost one bit of his speed or his ability to put the ball in the goal. So, I don't see him gaining weight. It just seems like it's maybe genetic. So I'm not really concerned about that. My concern is setting a precedent where if you give him 300,000, and I'm Saka, I'm saying, I am playing well. I gave 7 assists last year. I need to get 100,000 a year. And you have other contracts will arise that is going to drive that price. And here's another thing too. God forbid that he falls off his production. He becomes another Ozil. He becomes another benchmark. Even though I would doubt it, because my favorite player hasn't really produced over the last number of years. But you don't want the same situation. You can't afford to anyway. They can't afford the 300,000. That's why they're not getting it.
They know that. Yeah. Yeah, Stephen is saying it seems the Ramsey contract issue is repeating itself with Uber, and all this stems from Ozil's lack of contribution for the wage he gets. Yeah, that's that to an extent. He is overpaid in the team, and not going to disagree with that. Kez is saying our front office said earlier that if a player doesn't sign, they will sell him. I'm okay with that as long as it's not to a rival. Yeah, there's talk, some ridiculous talk about Manchester United was last Tuesday. And then Chelsea came up on Thursday, which I think is ludicrous. And they would never even, they wouldn't even do it. I know Giroud went there, and I know Van Persie went to, but look, this is, Arteta is in charge now. He gets a say in this. This is the reason why he took the job, because they were willing to give him a say. So Arteta wouldn't suffer it. Yeah, he just wouldn't have it. Evening to Alex as well in the chat. It's good to see you here. And again, you guys, please sub to his page. He has some great panels on his show as well. Nice to see you in the chat, Alex. Kez is saying, I was happy we let him go for free. Before it was just about getting the team right and not about making an Ozil mistake. Yeah. And Alex is saying congratulations to 2K. Yeah, I'm flying over 2K at the moment. I wanted to hit 2K by the end of this year, and it's already happened in the first 6 months, Alex. So I'm looking now to bag 3K by the end of this year. So hopefully that happens. I think the Sunday shows have really taken off. My problem is if I'm getting Aussie subscribers because of the daily lockdowns, once I go back to Arsenal, they're going to leave.
So, Paul, a quick question for you.
Yeah.
If Chelsea is the only team that comes in with 50 mil, would you take it? Because Inter can afford him. I don't think Inter can afford him and Lukaku and all those players. I don't think they can afford him. So if Chelsea is the only team, or Man U came in 50 mil, would you take it?
I wouldn't take it, but I think Arsenal would. I wouldn't take it, but I think Arsenal would take it. Because it's a business, isn't it? You know, they think business money first. We think heart passion first. So I think that if the board get offered 50 million from Chelsea, I think that they would take it, and I think Chelsea knows that as well. I think Chelsea knows that. Ebony, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, you know me already. I only believe stories when I read it on Arsenal.com. The fact of the matter is, if he wants to go, you know, you've given him 2 opportunities to sign a contract. He hasn't signed it. Let him go. Sell him off. Okay. Try and get 50 million for him, 60 million at a push. You probably won't get that much given his age. He can still bang in goals. That's great. And, you know, I'm happy to have that he's actually played for the club, but you know, this to and froing, it's actually, well, as a fan, it's annoying. It's annoying to see that, and all this summer's going to be now is it a case of, is he staying? Is he going? Is he staying? Is he going? You know, you just want to play the Clash song in your brain all the time. It's just like, you know, what are you doing? You know, and it's another season where we have another player and Arsenal fans on tenterhooks. You know, are we going to keep this player? Are we going to sign him, re-sign him? You know, what's he thinking? What's going through his brain? But if we sell him to Chelsea, and that's an if we sell him to Chelsea, I will be annoyed. Okay, I don't care where he goes, as long as it's not. If he does go, I don't care where he goes, but I do not want to see him at another Premiership team. It's as simple as that, really. I don't want to see him at another Premiership team. If you're going to sell him abroad, okay? Because Arsenal fans can handle that. You know, we've had too many years of selling our best players to our Premiership rivals. It can't go on. You know, Van Persie went to Man U. Giroud went to Chelsea. Sanchez went to Man U. Money. You know, and what's his name? Chamberlain went to Liverpool. You know, we can't be doing this over again. And personally, I'm sick and tired of it. So if he is going to go and we've not signed him after 2 contract offers, let him go, sell him abroad.
Yeah, I don't think I can add to that. It's pretty much where we are. I mean, as I said, you can't hold a gun to his head.
Exactly.
And in hindsight, before I go to Tony, I did say to you guys, I would just rather him play his last year out, because for the player, you know, Bertram said this last week. You sign a contract, you have to commit to the contract. In the NFL, they don't really, unless you're traded, they don't really facilitate. You know, you play out your contract regardless of what happens. You're here for 3 years.
Yeah, but the thing is, the contracts. Yeah, but contracts these days are not worth the paper they're written on. And as soon as a team comes in with a golden carrot, you know, the player tends to follow that carrot. And if it's a case of more money, then you know you can tell, you can figure out his line of thinking. If it's about winning trophies, then okay, I get that, but then we have to remember that he played in the Europa final last season, and he was he contributed to that loss. So
single-handedly, yeah.
So you know what I mean. So if he's worried about not winning anything at Arsenal, he has to remember that that Euro final in Baku last season. He was a contributor to that. Okay, yeah. So you know, but if he wants to go, and that's if he wants to go, because I'm not going to believe everything I read in the Mirror, even if it is John Cross, and even if if he is an informative, I don't believe tabloids. I believe it on on Arsenal.com.
Well,
let him go.
I actually believe his dad, because his dad is saying that he needs to sign the offer, and I tell you where there might be some truth to this, because his dad must have known that Arsenal had put a time limit on it, that they were going to withdraw it. So isn't it funny that we hear his dad go on Twitter and say you have to sign it, and then 48 hours later we hear that the contract's been withdrawn. So
guys, did his dad say he has to sign it, or his dad says you know what you need to do? There's a difference between you have to sign the contract. He never said explicitly. You don't need to do, maybe you just need to stay quiet, don't do anything, because you can make money later. I didn't interpret what his dad said as sign the contract. I interpreted as that we have discussed this. We know what we've agreed, so execute on it. It may be sign the contract. It also may be go someplace else.
That's a good point. And I just want to cover 18 saying, is he worth 50 million? Now, he's probably asking that question because when a player is in his last year, your value goes down by half. We know that Henry was worth 3 times more than 16 million to Barcelona. We know Van Persie was worth twice more than 26 million going to Man United. So 50 million is pretty much top dollar for a guy who's in his last year. I mean, initially, if it was anybody else, it would be under 30 million. So that's actually a really good question from 18. I think based on the fact that he's scoring a goal every other game, yes, he probably is worth 50 million. Tony, I'm going to come to you on this. What's your thoughts on it?
Of what Ebony and what Bertram have already, I really don't salivating over people like
Tony, your
John
mic's
Cross.
cutting badly, man.
This thing has got legs. It's got months to go. This thing has got lots and lots of legs to go. Anybody in a position to turn around and say, I mean, what? I see football articles day in and day out. This player's been linked with this club. Listen. Let's just allow it. Let's just forget about it, because at the end of the day, we're a live game of football. I understand last night a boxing show.
Yeah, guys, can you hear Tony properly? He's cutting out quite a bit.
That took place.
Patchy.
Yeah, no, Tony's mic is probably needs to be close to his mic.
I don't know.
It's really chopping in and out. It's freezing also.
He's frozen as well. So I'm going to come back to Tony. Tony, are you still with us? You were really patching out there for a bit.
Okay. I am. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
It's slightly better, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, slightly better, yeah.
Okay. So what is effectively, I think we're in a lockdown for another 2 to 3 months. I think football isn't going to bring to us anytime soon. So, at least 3 months before we see football again. And with that amount of time
Tony, your internet is really struggling.
There's just a lot of speculation daily.
Yeah, it's really struggling.
Right.
I think you might have to go out and come back in. Daniel, nice to see you in the show, Daniel. He says, yo, days go so fast, keep forgetting and missing it. Yeah, don't worry, mate. It's all you got to do is set a reminder when I do it on a Saturday or Sunday, and it should pop up, no problem. Alex saying, if the reports are true, Chelsea's coming in for Uber, it won't be the first time. So yeah, I think it's a good question that Bertram poses. I think that the board will take the money because that's what they do. They're looking to make more than the 27 million losses they made last year. And I think that for many different reasons, they would just take, if it came down to it, and that was the best offer that they got, and Chelsea know this as well, then they would definitely sell to Chelsea. I wouldn't like it and I wouldn't agree with it, but I know how they think. I know how Stan Kroenke thinks. So listen, we're going to come back to Tony on that when we can, but we're going to move on, guys, to Arsenal's most overrated player. Now, Tom sent us a message, Tom Aston, saying he doesn't think that there's any players that are overrated. And I could name I could name it 10, 11 players. I could go into double digits. But listen, Bertram, if you got one, if you haven't, then don't worry. And guys in the chat as well, do you have a player that you think is the most overrated player on the team? Bertram, you got the conch.
So I guess the question is how you define overrated. Is that you think people believe that the person's ability doesn't reflect their contributions to the team? Is it about productivity? That question for me is a rhetorical question because if we have a player who's getting paid $350, has one goal for the season and maybe 1 assist, and we are 3/4 way through the season, and has been doing the same thing for the last few years, where disappears when we go away from home. If we play Stoke, all of a sudden he has a bellyache, or his toes hurt, or his nose is bothering him. After a while, you get to the point of like, I've had enough. It's like Abu Dhabi, great player but can't stay in the field. I can't have you on my team if you can't stay in the field. And if you can't stay in the field but you find excuses, stay in your 10-minute. I hate to say this, in 10-minute mansion and relax at home while my team go out there in the cold and the rain and go play the difficult teams. You have to be overrated. As Conte from TalkSports always say, where is Mesut Ozil? There's a reason why you have divided opinion on a player, is because that player has a great reputation, was a very good player in the past at Madrid and for Germany, but hasn't produced at the same level in the last few years. Got a contract which is for the team. That contract is like a big load the team has to carry. It affects the entire organization negatively. Future players coming in, Abba signed the contract, Ramsey signed the contract, Saka signed the contract. Every player is going to compare and say, you paying this player. Think about you, Saka. You're going to give me, what, $50,000? So he's going to make 7 times what I make, and I'm tripling and quadrupling his contribution. How can you have me sign a contract for you with a player who's my comparator, who's a player beside me, who's my peer, even though he's made me older and contribute more, but we're talking about today's contribution. Yeah. You're going to pay him 7 times what I make, and I'm doubling his contribution. There is no way in what that's going to occur. So the problem
I think there's a reason why Saka hasn't signed his contract offer. There's a reason why Guendouzi hasn't signed his contract offer.
Of course. There's a comparison.
Yeah.
Which is,
It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Tom Brady is the best GOAT. He's the GOAT. And he doesn't get anywhere near the highest salary in the NFL.
It's true.
LeBron James is the GOAT in basketball, and he doesn't go anywhere near the highest salary. It doesn't work like that.
So you're coming right in my territory, which is so unfair for you to come in my territory. So let's not digress here. But I say this: Tom Brady makes $20 million plus ridiculous commercial endorsements. LeBron James makes $20 million plus with ridiculous commercial endorsements. It's not a good comparison.
It's the endorsements. That's what does it, isn't it?
He's on mute.
Yeah, Bertram, you're on mute.
So I just talked to myself for about the last 5 minutes very passionately. And saying that, Tony, you're in a different territory. LeBron James makes more in commercial endorsements, so does Tom Brady, than they make on the field. It's not a good comparison. You can't use other sports. Then you got to talk about Hamilton and racing.
That's my point.
No, it's about my peers. How much is a player getting paid? How much is a player getting paid versus Tony or Ebony?
Yeah.
Not how much is Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or whoever the heck it is that gets paid. Come on.
Yeah, listen.
Tony agrees. That's what we can't hear.
The best player in the Arsenal team right now. Okay. So the best player at Arsenal right now is Bukayo Saka. and he's getting the least paid wages. That equates to what happens in most other types of competition.
Scottie Pippen.
You have to build yourself up before you get.
No. This is 2020, guys. It's about what have you done for me lately. This is not about long-term production. I think we're confusing the current player and how they think versus the more historical way. Michael Jordan didn't get paid a lot of money. Scottie Pippen fake injury, took surgery in his last year of his contract because he wanted to get out of Chicago. Okay, he wasn't getting paid. That's 20 years ago. That doesn't work anymore. I am producing today, pay me. That's it. Pay me what my value is in today's market. Dortmund may come in for Saka. Liverpool may come in for Saka. Man, you may come in for Saka. And they're going to give him $100,000 a year.
Yeah, they would pay. Liverpool are talking about paying Martinelli 150 grand a week. But, Martinelli...
I'm sorry, not a year, a week. I'm sorry, not a year.
Yeah, he's just signed the contract. So Saka's the one that we got to worry about. So listen, Stephen agrees with you, Bertram. Stephen's saying Ozil is the most overrated player. He is like a house for sale in the middle of a sinkhole land. No electric, no water, nobody will buy him. It is very few takers for free. And, his form's dipped. This is a guy who nearly beat Thierry Henry's assist record when he was on his charge. And 12 goals, 2016, 2017, under that fantastic, amazing setup that Arsene Wenger had with Sanchez, Walcott, and Giroud playing in front of him. But no, he's not the same player that he was. I do agree with Bertram about that. And yeah, you're right. They're stuck with him. They got waffled in. And what do you expect when you got a guy like Dick Law who's running your negotiations? They really didn't have a clue. But yeah, so thanks for that, Bertram. Now, who have we got here? Alex says Guendouzi is his most overrated player in the team. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's 19, isn't it? Or 20. He's young.
And 18 going with Xhaka. 18 going with Xhaka as well. I didn't doubt you for 1 minute, 18. Ebony, who's your most overrated player on the team?
Well, it's quite easy to say Ozil, but I'm going to move away from Ozil. Yes, he is overrated, but let me just move away from him. I'm going to say Xhaka. I'll have to agree with Xhaka. This is somebody who Wenger bought because he was good in the Bundesliga. This is somebody who, this is a player who can't pass. If you put me in the team in his position, I could do a better job. In actual fact, any of us could do a better job. Even the people in the chat room could do a better job. The only thing that he's got to his game is that a 60-yard kick. That is it. He can't tackle. He makes at least one mistake every game. And I think the money that we paid for him was a waste. I just think that, if you're gonna, he's been in the Premier League now for what, 4 seasons now, and he hasn't improved. To me, he's not. And I know there's lots of fanboys and girls that will stick up for him and make excuses, and that they'll bring in the fact that he was cussed out by the fans when he told that time when he told fans to F off. But for me personally, he's got nothing to his game apart from that free kick. The fact that he has one good game in every 4 or 5 is just not good enough for me. So in light of that, in light of the fact that his passing is awful, he makes a mistake at least one mistake every game. He only has a good game every 4 or 5. I'm afraid, and I know I'm going to upset people, but it is Xhaka.
Okay, and we've got.
So I just say one thing, actually, not to dispute Emily, but I say this: every manager who has come in has played him.
Yeah.
Whether it's Ljungberg or Arteta or Emery or Wenger, they have all played him. So they start with a clean slate. They pick their best 11. He's in the 11. So
what was the alternative?
I know the fans.
Yeah, what was the alternative?
Yeah.
We have. What do you mean alternative? We have 25 players. What do you mean alternative?
There isn't another player play CDM.
Torreira plays CDM.
Alongside him.
Yeah.
Coughlin played CDM before he left. We have CDMs who play there.
Arteta didn't have
CDMs
Coughlin.
who play there.
Yeah, Emery didn't have Coquelin. They sold Coquelin.
Wenger had Coquelin, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and he was one of the leading performers at that position in Europe. And then they replaced Coquelin with Xhaka, who became one of the worst.
I have 25 players, right? And we have seen us rotate players in positions where Chambers played center midfield when he played for Fulham. We have players who probably could fit into that role. Now, I agree with you. Xhaka is athletically challenged. He can't run. He can't tackle. He can pass. I disagree about his passing. I don't want to dominate the conversation here, but I would say all the managers have played him. So it says something about him in training and how they view it. That's all I'll say about it.
No, it doesn't. All it says is we haven't got any options, because if I've always said this, Bertram, Arsenal's weakest position is in that CDM role. We just simply have 4 players. So you might have a squad of 25, but actually what you look at is you got 8 centre backs. Yeah. You got a plethora of wingers or wing backs, yeah, and then you got strikers. But when you look at actual CDMs, specialist role, that's a specialist role. Torreira, Guendouzi, and Xhaka. Possibly, possibly might throw Joe Willokin, possibly, but I don't see him as that. But that's
Xhaka
3 players,
over all of them. We bought Torreira for 28 mil, and he played over Torreira all the time. He's played centre back before we went under 10 men. He's played left back. Somehow the managers value him. Now, I'm not saying he's a great player. Don't get me wrong. I think he should go. But
your mic has cut out.
Oh, no, my mic hasn't cut out. I'm basically saying this, which is I go on mute sometimes because I don't want the feedback. But let me say this, which is the managers play him over Torreira. They play him over Guendouzi. They've played him at left back. They've played him at centre back when we went down to 10 men in game. So they value his contribution. He's actually a leader. He may not be athletically the best player, but he's actually a leader. He has a good left foot. No matter what anyone says, he can actually pass the ball. I disagree about not passing. He makes the passes out to the wing really well. But the fact is, he's athletically challenged, and the position needs a Kante or Ndidi. It doesn't need a Xhaka.
Okay, what can I just jump in there? Sorry,
it's your go, Tony. Tony, it's
all right.
It's your go.
So to respond to that, Bertram, he is what he is. Yeah, he's not overrated. He is what he is, and he's the best at of what we've got in that whole spectrum. Would you play Torreira as a centre back? Hell no. Would you play Torreira as a left back? Hell no. Would you play Guendouzi as a centre back? Hell no. Would you play Guendouzi as a left back? Hell no. So let's be honest. Challenged or not challenged physically, he does a better job than most in being able to cover 3 different positions across the pitch. Yeah, because I don't know another player in our team who can actually do that job. I would give that. I was just about to say that. So apart from Callum Chambers, who's been injured, there is nobody else who's capable of fulfilling that role. Possibly David Luiz, because we've seen him play in centre midfield. Yeah. But, listen, as far as overrated players are concerned, I don't think you can call a player overrated if he's what he is. Listen, if we come into Arsenal and we've got Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and he doesn't score you 50 goals, are you not saying he's not overrated? Because Messi can score 50. Cristiano Ronaldo can score 50. There's a kid at Dortmund who's like 18 and he just turned the other day at professional, and for some reason he's already banged in 30 goals this season. So what are you comparing one to another?
All right, so Tony, let's get the definition of overrated then. So overrated would be a player who is valued too highly. Let's leave it at that.
The value of a player is what are you basing the value on? Are you basing it on his salary?
No, performance.
So this is my point. How are you overrating a player? And I think this is what Tom and I both alluded to.
Okay,
if you talk to us, no player is overrated
Okay, so if you have expectations of a player, so that means a player who can pass the ball with a high passing accuracy, a player who doesn't give the ball away.
Right, I could have told you what Xhaka was last season.
Right,
So he's not overrated. Yeah, I could have told you what Lacazette was last season. Yeah, now is Lacazette performing better than he did last season or similarly? No, he is not. But I'm not overrating him because I know what he is. He is not a 25 goal a season striker. Never has been.
So I'm going to use a more practical example of overrated.
So who is overrated?
Wait. So the manager plays
Is Mesut Ozil overrated? Because if you're comparing him with last season, he ain't. Because I didn't expect much last season, and I didn't expect much this season.
Okay, but Tony, let's keep it 100 at the moment. Bertram and Ebony have given their opinion of who they think is overrated in terms of who's not producing what they should be producing. So it comes down to yourself. Are you saying that you don't think anybody is underproducing?
Aubameyang, he's the captain. He's overrated.
Okay. And your reasons for that
is basically if you're the captain of Arsenal, who are to me the greatest team that walked the earth, you should be doing a lot more. I appreciate that you scored the most important goals for us this season, and we're only in the position we are because of it. But let's be honest, outside of the goals, there's not a great deal to talk about. He's not beating players on the wing. He's not delivering crosses into another striker because he's playing on the wing. He's not interplaying in such a position. His passing's atrocious. Let's be honest. We all say that.
I'm gonna do my comparison with Cuomo and outcomes. It's all about outcomes. At the end of the day, I studied hard for my exam and I failed. That's not good. I studied hard and I passed. That's outcome.
Right.
So Cuomo has 20,000 deaths. Poor outcome. Aubameyang at 60 goals in 90-something games. Great outcome.
Okay.
Don't say about what you're saying.
So if we're talking about outcome, Donald Trump is doing a fantastic job for America because he has a lot of great outcomes.
Where?
Look at your industry, brother. Look at your industry.
What industry?
Factories are open.
Food on the table. It ain't that hot now.
It's not good now, but let's if we take your country back 4 months, a lot of people were saying, "Great job, Mr. Trump. We've opened up our industry. Our economy is flourishing. Thank you. Good job."
And you know what? I think people are confusing we won't digress into politics.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I promise, Bertrand, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
So I'm not doing that.
I'll say this about that, which is, no matter who you are, there may be things about you that suggest you're doing well, right? Ozil technically is a great player, but Michael Jordan still can shoot a jump shot and don't miss a shot no matter who's playing against him. But he can't play in the NBA today, even with a great jump shot. Ozil can keep the ball. He can't run. He can't beat a man. He doesn't score goals.
He runs more than anybody else on the pitch. He runs more. He does more kilometers than any other player. Dean, am I wrong?
In a circle, in the same circle.
Yeah, but Dean, am I wrong? Is he running? Is he running the most kilometers in a game?
No, he's not.
In a circle. Tony.
Okay, all right. So
sprints, Ozil jogs. There's a big difference.
Okay, so listen.
Martinelli runs, Ozil jogs.
So guys, listen, that's Tony's opinion, yeah? My opinion is obviously is Xhaka. You guys know already, and I've said this many times, I've made videos about it. Ever since he has come into the team, we have not made the top 4. And what leaders do is they elevate teams to go beyond what they're capable of doing. He gained the reputation of being a hard tackler, but he also had the most red cards in Europe. So when Wenger got him, he told him not to go down on not to slide through on players. And what that did is made him a toothless shark. He is, his game is supposed to be about passing, but yet, as Tony talked about last week, all the passing statistics show him near the bottom of the Premiership. Yeah, he gets exposed because of his speed. He's not creative. I think there was twice I saw this season that he made a pass where I went, wow, man just put defense on the back foot. But he should be doing that every game. You know who does it every game? David Luiz makes those passes every game. Yeah, Pablo Mari, who's only played one game, made 3 of those passes. Where I said, wow, this guy can pass the ball and break the neck of a defensive line. But for a man who people talk about his passing, and I can't see it. And I never miss a game. And I do player ratings and I report on every game. I do game analysis. I can't see it. So, and look, if somebody can show me some footage, I'd love to see it. But, you know, the thing about me is this, which is what I said to Bertram. He's erratic. I've never seen I've seen one player give the ball away more than him in the last 5 years, and that's Alexis Sanchez. The amount of times he passes the ball across his line, which goes to the other team, and the amount of goals. Remember, he gave away last season, in Emery's season, 6 goals. He made 6 errors that led to goals. And as Bertram said, the manager
is not overrated. So let's go to the definition of overrated. Have a high opinion of someone. I thought we already did. Wait. No. Have a higher opinion of someone that is deserved. None of you think that Xhaka have a high opinion of Xhaka. Have a high opinion that is deserved. None of you think he has a high opinion of him that is deserved.
Okay, so let's get this straight. We do have a high opinion because he's been the club captain.
No, you don't. You just said it. You don't.
He's been the club captain for many years. He's also played fantastically well for his national team. Yeah,
not interested.
We've all
not
seen
interested.
Never translate.
Never interested.
So you might not be interested, but I've seen him play well for Switzerland. But when I see him play for Arsenal, I can't even. He's awful.
Your argument suggests that you don't rate Xhaka. So how can he be overrated?
Exactly.
You can't say he's overrated because you don't rate him.
No, exactly.
Come on, guys. Player on our team.
I agree with you, Bertram.
By who rates him, Apollo? Who rates him?
Listen, we had a guy on our show last week, Nathan, who rated him. We've got fans. I meet fans every week when I go to see Arsenal play that rate him.
They're a very small minority. They're a very small minority.
You guys compare Ozil versus Xhaka about ratings. Who rates Ozil? Do you rate Ozil, Apollo? Of course you do.
Is that another topic? Do we rate Ozil? I think Ozil's a good player, and I think he's waning. I think he's on the downside of his career, and I don't think he's producing enough. Yeah, I don't think he's producing.
But I'm saying that's why he divides opinion. That's why people like Conde on TalkSport will say, where is he? Because he's the most discussed player about his capabilities versus production in football, period. No other player divides opinion as much. So that means for half the population he's overrated, for half he's probably not rated well enough.
Well, there you go.
That's the most overrated player.
My answer is
I saw you put up that comment by Cannon Fodder. What you said is not a statement that nobody here can disagree with. It's facts. Yeah, facts is facts. You know, he's got weak passer completion ratio compared to everybody else. But what we're talking about is the subjective stuff that we are often talking about. And in this situation, none of us actually rate him last season. None of us rated him the season before that. So we're not overrating him now because he's not doing anything worse than he did last year.
Agreed. He's not overrated.
You know, that's your opinion. I've given my answer. So unless anybody's got anything to say, we can move on to the next subject. Again, it sounds like it's how we've defined overrated. That is what the issue has been. But regardless of whatever, my answer is what it is, and then we're time to move on. Right, guys, this is going to. If you think that was divisive, wait until you see this. Rotted. Guys, you know the situation right now. Yeah, this is no joke. Yeah, we laughed at this a month ago, and what has happened in Holland? Holland has cancelled the season. Season is done. Done. Yeah?
Unfinished.
Listen, it's the domino effect that we've been waiting for in the footballing world, that leagues could be void because, let's be honest, yeah? And this is the honest thing, and I think all 4 of us and Arsenal Vlogs and Nathan agreed last week, if there's one thing that we know, is that we don't know. Yeah? That's the one thing that we can say, hand on heart, that we know, is that we don't know anything about this virus. We don't know if we're going to get a second wave. We don't know if the immunities or vaccines will work. We don't know when normal life is going to come back to us. It could be 2021 before we are going out there, going to the cinema, going to restaurants, it could happen next month. It could happen in 3 months. It could happen next year. The truth is, we don't know. So Holland have cancelled their league. League is done. And listen, Liverpool have got a 25-point lead on Manchester City, who are in second place. And for that reason, Liverpool would
not mathematically.
One more game, Tony. It would take one more game, and then
doesn't matter.
Of course, playing it. Yeah, they haven't played it. That's right.
So guys, one word. This is not Eredivisie League. One word. Money. There's a difference between the league in Holland, who nobody cares about, and a league that makes billions of dollars a year. Think about this, guys. So I was adamant that the league will not play a game because this virus is not going into place. Having said that, think about playing in empty stadiums with TV cameras, all of us locked up at home, and games coming on 24/7. What will we do? What's the commercial implications of that? What's the advertising dollar generated from that?
That is a good question.
There is no way you're going to say, I'm going to close this down permanently for the rest of the season when I can play in a very confined environment. Mm-hmm. I can have a hotel with all these players. I can make sure it's clean. They don't go home to their families for 6, 7, 8 weeks. You play the games. People are locked up in house. We're dying for entertainment. I don't watch Netflix. I don't watch TV, frankly. I watch sports. We're dying for entertainment, and I get my players and my team I'm passionate about and watch those games. I think the league will figure it out. I think they will. That's why they talk to Boris to say, Boris, look, we can control this. We can play this within certain parameters of being very thoughtful, abundance of caution, and ensure that we protect the players. We won't even send them home to their wives. They'll be in a prison for 7, 8 weeks, get it over with, make the money, and go home. It's going to be finished. We're going to finish the league.
I agree.
Money talks.
Okay, so we just talked about the fact that we didn't know. Yeah? The one defining thing was that we didn't know. Is that we can't dictate this virus. The virus is dictating our lifestyle. And then Bertram, you go and say that. Brother man, we are not in a position, and nor is the FA. I think the FA right now are thinking, wow, are we going to get 60,000 fans that are going to pack into stadiums right now? Because it
doesn't matter. You don't need that.
You don't
need 60,000.
It's going to be played behind closed doors.
Yeah, and if it's played behind closed doors. Yeah,
yes, PSG played Dortmund behind closed doors, didn't it? I watched the game, actually. I was entertained.
Okay, so player-to-player contact. I'm just saying, if that happens, then you still lose the revenue of fans because Arsenal have to still refund their season ticket holders. Now, we know that they've already made a statement last week saying that they'll either give you a credit or they'll move it over to next season. So it will just be a reduction of what you pay. There's a lot of money. I mean, I'm hearing things like the NBA season might be cancelled now. I was talking to Tony today. I was talking to I was hearing listen, this thing, they're starting to have the conversations about it. Maybe the season may be cancelled. So
the whole of America is reopening. 12 states have reopened today.
Yeah, I know.
Look,
and
it all depends. It all depends on what the contract says with the TV networks, right? I think in the UK, I think you sort of lose the revenues if you don't play. I'm not sure if there's a pandemic contingency reflected in the contracts for the NBA or the NFL or any other leagues. It all depends on what those contracts says. Am I guaranteed my dollars or do I have to play to get my dollars? But I'm telling you, like, we don't have talk here about players taking pay cuts. In Europe, it's a very social environment, which is, you know what? People are more about the collective versus the individual. So people get shamed for not taking pay cuts. I don't hear anybody shaming LeBron James or shaming any other player yet, and that they won't hear for not taking a pay cut. Some people may take a pay cut eventually if they think it's going to be detrimental to their teams.
I think we heard today, is it Watford or Aston Villa? Which was the team?
Villa.
Aston Villa, 25%. Yeah, and that's for 4 months. That's a 4-month pay cut that we heard. But Bertram, you pose again another good question because when I think about the implications of how that will work, there's so much things that are being affected by it. And it would be, if we look into things like Formula One, we know that Formula One has an insurance policy for if races don't apply, so that people would then be able to go and claim for their losses. We're in a situation now where you've posed a good question. Are these teams insured against losses of this magnitude? That is a fantastic question.
You're going to have a lot of bankrupt insurance companies. That's all I know. See, this is a cascade, right? Imagine insuring the league, imagine insuring the NBA not to play a game. You can't. No insurance company has the capital and the reserves to satisfy that, right? I mean, pandemic is always a little caveat at the bottom of the contract. Basically says, if an act of God occurs, I'm not responsible. So I'm sure insurance companies have those built into their contract. Yeah. But I can't see you having insurance for a whole league, for individual situations, for a player, for example, not for a whole league.
Yeah, I agree. Ebony,
I agree too.
Ebony, before we come to you, Kez is saying, I think given some of the stupidity that a few players have shown, all right, okay, so that's moving on. Stephen, if it can't be done by August and we're still in the unknown with the virus, it has to be binned. But the deadline at the end of May, needs conclusion. And I think that's where I am at the moment. I'm thinking these guys are making plans. Remember, they talked about end of March, we're going to have a decision. And then it went 3rd of April. Then it went 30th of April. Now it's moved to, because you know why? Because the virus is dictating what is going on. You can't tell me that you're going to come back and play football at a certain time. You know why?
However,
is dictating it.
However, what you're not putting into that scenario, Apollo, is that we've now gone over the curve.
Not over, we're flattening. Not over.
Okay,
not over.
Call it a flattening, but the curve is not rising anymore. Yeah, yes. And if you look at what's going on in the States, New York apart and a few other very high suffering states, a lot of places are reopening.
Yeah, let's not use America because they're making some very silly decisions.
Well, you know what? Boris will do what Trump will do. He will do what Trump will do.
No, he hasn't, because he's extended.
What do you mean he hasn't? He was in hospital with the COVID virus, brother.
Tony, Boris has extended the lockdown down by 3 weeks. America is trying to open up right now, so it's not the same. It's not the same.
So guys, look, I think it's funny to think about this, which is it's not sustainable to stay locked up in your house. It just isn't. Because a lot of people don't have the resources. Some of us may be able to work from home and have the resources to sustain and provide for our families. I just looked at some pictures from Jamaica. They're getting remittance. They close Western Union and people are losing their minds, right? Because the flow and distribution and supply is international. Yeah. And when you close one border, you're closing off a whole section of people. So if I don't have the resources to allow me to stay home, I have to go out. No matter what anyone wants to say. Some states like Georgia, it's manageable because no one goes anyplace anyway. You see them in their cars, you don't see them, like Florida and Georgia, right? It's not like New York, where we all on the street walking, we all interacting, we all engaging. Exactly. It's a much different environment. So I do think that, look, the Premier League will play again, and they'll play again this year. There's too much money at stake, no matter what anyone wants to say.
Well, I guess we'll see on that. So, Ebony, sorry, I was going to Daniel Millington. Are we ready for Champions League, though? We don't want to get booed off and knocked out. All right, okay. So that's if Arsenal make the Champions League, and I don't know which way that they would do it if it happens. Going back to Kez, I say they void the season. You can't guarantee safety. You can't get the fans' revenue. Big sports will be cancelled. I think that is a strong possibility, Kez. And I think that we need to open ourselves up to the idea that is a possibility. And I mentioned this to Tom on 101. I said to him, now that the Dutch league is gone, it's a kind of dibby league. It's not, with all due respect to all the Dutch followers here, it's a minor league in Europe. If this happened to the German league, Spain, the Italian league, French league to a point, then we would start. Then this conversation becomes hella serious because those are one of the big boys, one of the big leagues. But then we can start.
So here's what Kez is missing. We're comparing revenues at the gate with concessions to TV global revenues. Global TV revenues. It's like saying I have a case, I'm going to go and litigate the case to its end versus settling, because when I settle, I save money. So it's like saying I won't play the season because fans can't come to the, I'm going to lose fan revenues. Are you crazy? We're talking about TV money here. So I get paid television money. People are home. The television station get their commercial. Nothing has changed. All we don't have is fans in the stand, along with concessions. I don't see how you don't play if you can do it safely. I just don't.
Yeah, and that's a decent point. Hold on, I've got to come to Ebony, Tony, because she's been waiting.
Literally, just one point. Okay, this one point is, just so you're aware of it, I told you earlier there was a boxing match took place in Nicaragua yesterday.
Yes.
What they did was they reduced the amount of people who could attend the event by 2/3, and they made it so that people sat with 2-seat gap in between every person.
Yeah, and that is, I think that's the way. Good point, Tony. That's the way that we're going to see the norm in terms of sporting events, in terms of going to the cinema. I'm hearing people are going to get seats removed or get seats crossed out. That's going to be, it's a new world we're going into now, and we're going into the unknown, and they're going to have to figure it out. Ebony, let me come to you. But before I do Ebony, you've been waiting a while. Alex is saying, Kez, he agrees. You cannot guarantee the safety. However, football is a big business, which is what Bertram said. Clubs make more from TV rights, and they do. Yeah, us that go to the games, we are not a commodity. The commodity is the Premiership is the biggest TV sporting event worldwide on a consistent basis. Every country in the world, they watch the Premiership, so that gives them a reason to play behind closed doors. But let's see what happens. Ebony, you got the conch.
All right. Well, I mean, I heard on the news that, the FA are thinking of actually starting it up again in June. If you're going to do that, then what's going to happen? How many games are going to be played in a week? Is it going to end in July? I know that there's only a few games left, but the point is, how are these games going to pan out? Will teams be fit enough to fit in so many games within a short amount of time?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
One. Number two, bearing in mind that the season will start again in August, will it then be put back a month to September? Because after the season, you've got the players, they normally take a 6-week break or 4-week break. Then there's a pre-season. Then they've got to get prepared for the season ahead. So that's one thing to think about. But if they do start the season again, then it will have to be played behind closed doors. And if it's a case of allowing fans in, then how you do have to think about the seating arrangement. And if you take Arsenal Stadium, 60,000, how are you going to space the players? Is it going to be like 10 fans per row, or 250 fans per block? So that's one thing to think about.
Because Ebony, what we do know is there's 44,000 fans, season ticket holders, that get to go to the games. The other is away tickets, and the other goes to the red members and silver, etc. So I would think that first of all, the silvers and whatever, they would be gone. I mean, they just wouldn't have them. But it's still going to be a logistical nightmare, because again, we're not even talking about taking London transport to get to the game. We're not even talking about that. Yeah, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about how are you going to fit 44,000 season ticket holders in the Emirates? That is going to
guys. You get carried away with this season ticket holders thing. There's no, there are no fans in the stands. There's no fans in the stands. It's behind closed doors. And Ebony mentioned players need to get a break. They already got their break. They've been breaking since March all the way through to June. So they got their 3-month break. They only need to get a month break. Now they got 3 months or 4 months. They need no break.
But the thing is,
the good point is the pre-season. You've got to remember as well is that the Euro competition's been cancelled as well till next year. So I can understand that, if they do start it in June, they're going to have to really sit down and think, all right, how many games realistically can we fit in until July? And then the players will get tired. I know that they're being paid loads and loads of money, but then footballers are humans as well, and footballers do get tired. irrespective of how much they get paid. So, you know, that's something that the FA will think about. But otherwise, you know, it makes sense to void the season. I know Liverpool fans don't want to hear it, but at the end of the day, you know, it's the FA that are going to have to really think about it, and they're going to have to speak to teams as well, because it's the players that are most affected, and the managers as well, and also the backroom staff. They're affected because, as I said, players get tired, fatigue sets in. So, but then if you're not going to end it in July, then maybe end it in, I don't know, mid-July, at the beginning of July, maybe end it in mid-July, and then start the season again in September. If I don't know. It's going to be, it's a difficult one right now, but I think it makes more sense to void the season, to be quite honest. And if you are going to start the season again, then it's going to have to be behind closed doors.
Okay, look, can I respond to that?
Yeah, it's your go, Tony. It's your go,
okay,
Tony.
So literally this whole problem of logistics, yeah, people aren't bearing in mind some of the key points here. Yeah, the season can't start in June. Yeah, because the decision to start the season will not happen until May. If you make a decision in May, you need to give teams a chance to have a pre-season again of at least a month. Yeah,
yes, agreed.
So we're not talking about the season starting till July. Yeah, by July, if everything's is working as expected, people are going to be back to work. Yeah, the logistics of getting to the stadium by train are not going to be a worry, because people will be sitting in cafes, in restaurants, going to the cinema. Social distances is going to be a thing we will be accustomed to for a very long time.
Yeah, because I've been told in my job that I'm, you know, my customers are already telling me I can't go and see them. They don't want me to go and see them face to face.
But so they also realize that they can do business without you being on their premises.
Exactly. It's a new world now, man.
So listen, logistically, we're talking about certain things happening, but you're not bearing in mind that other things will happen by July, by August. Now, you were talking about how you're going to fit the season in. Well, there's only 10 games left. Yeah, there's no European competition. There's no FA Cup. So essentially, you just have to complete 10 games in a very short period of time. And you can play 10 games. You can play 10 games in 1 month. Exactly.
You can do it in 1 month.
Yeah. So logistically, they will find a way. They will find a way, because the money, as Bertram said, is too big to not have it. And if Arsenal are playing in front of 10,000 fans, selected with 5 seats between each of them, they'll do it. Yeah. And guess what? I will be in a pub watching every game, because I am desperate. I am gagging to see my sport again. Listen, I was up until 5 o'clock for 2 nights on the trot just watching the NBA draft, NFL draft. Excuse me. You and I we just want sport back so much.
Me and Tony, you know what time I went to bed on Thursday night? I got to bed at 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. I was up all night, 7 a.m.
watching the draft.
Yeah.
So excited. So excited.
7 a.m. Look at Bertram's face. Bertram, you're on mute. You're on mute.
There is no way I'm staying up that long to watch a draft. I watched the first round.
We was desperate.
Bro, listen, you know I'm up till 5 a.m. for Monday Night Football in the season. I don't miss a Redskins game. I don't care what hours of the night. When I go to bed, crack of dawn is coming up. Mrs. is getting ready to go to work. I've been doing that ever since I've been a Redskins fan. Even when I listened to Armed Forces Radio in the 1980s. Yeah, I was still up at 4 a.m. and I'm still up at 4 a.m. now. Nothing's changed, man. Hardcore HTTR. I'm messing around, man. You know me already. All right, guys, listen. Last subject that we're going to talk about is Martin Keown made a statement. This is such a divisive panel that we're having here tonight. Guys in the chat as well, I would love to hear your opinion on this. Martin Keown said he would love Arsene Wenger to come back to the club in any role of capacity to support the current team. Now, I'm gonna be last to answer, of course, but I'm going to. Shall we go Tony first on this? Because we always go Bertram first. Tony, do you want to go first on this one? And guys in the chat, would you take Arsene Wenger back in a supporting role capacity? And let's be clear. He currently is employed by FIFA, so he would have to give that role up, and then he would have to. And I think he's employed by. Is it the the Gray and Keys, Richard Keys and Andy Gray? He's employed by them to be an analyst as well. He's got various work going on left, right, and center. And look, he's a busy man right now. Would you take him back at Arsenal in some supporting capacity, Tony?
Listen, the talk is about him going back into the back room. It's not talking about being any part of the coaching staff. What's his value in the back room? You know,
economic diploma.
Really?
Yeah, PhD in economics. I mean, he was the brainchild.
If he can do something with our economics and make it so that we can become a force again, then great. All for it. But really and truly, I just saw our neighbours up in Newcastle just inherit a £320 billion owner. I'm like, yeah, there's a bit of an issue there, right, with the economics.
God, if that deal goes through, I know they're trying to block it, but I think it's a formality. We went through this with the Disney Plus Fox merger. I think the reason why is because of Frank Sinatra, the guy who fled his country, who bought Man City and ended up getting chased down and locked up. They don't want to see another one of that happen. But at the same time, if that deal goes through, they will be able to buy any player they want. And in a matter,
doing the dishes.
Oh my God!
Ebony, who are you doing?
She's doing dinner. What, she got some rice and peas and dumpling and festival and everything. She is dumpling. Lord of God. So listen, Tony, would you take him back? Is that a yes or a no?
If he's got value, then yeah, why not? I mean, as I said, it's not on the pitch. We're talking about in the back office. If he brings some worth to us there, fine. I don't see an issue.
Hey, 18 says I would take him back. He's worked with Arteta before. Yes, he has, but Arteta put him in his place because Arteta called that players meeting and was got fed up of all these crazy tactics, getting beat on the counter attack. Arteta was the only man to stand up to Arsene Wenger in his whole reign of captaincy, as well as Patrick Vieira, as you guys know. Steve saying Wenger coming back would undermine any manager in charge. Again, it depends, like what Tony said, it depends if it's a board level, like Sir Chips Keswick. If it's something to that respect, then he won't really be involved in the football operations. We've already got Vinay and Raul Sally as directors of football for that. So I don't think it would be. Daniel saying, come back where? Hey, Daniel, I told the guy today, Wenger will. The only comeback that I might want to see from Wenger is the statue outside the stadium. Kez is saying, I don't think he should come back. He's done his time, and it's time for the next phase of our development, unless there was something tangible. And again, Tony makes a great point saying that tangibility could be as a boardroom level, someone as a director level who can sit on the board. I think that is something that is plausible, and I think that would work as well. Daniel, what can he really do for us? That's so great. Again, Daniel, man's got every kind of diploma in economics, and it was his brain that really got the whole thing going to build this thing. So I think he can help. And another thing as well, his network for grooming players, especially in Asia and Africa and things like that, I think he could be an addition. If it helps, it helps. Yeah. Bertram.
So it's interesting, right? Because that's why players should make as much money as possible and don't listen to fans. So I wanted Wenger to go because I thought his time was up. But the man won, I want to say 10 trophies. I don't count 7 community shields.
17.
10 trophies. Well, he won 10 trophies for the club. 7 community shields doesn't mean anything, right? You only play in one team.
It still means honors. Yeah, it still means honors.
No, I'm not counting that. He won 10 trophies for the club. So if you won 10 trophies for a club, you actually were the reason why we got a lot of players we got. The sole reason.
And the fans.
Now, the economics actually. Yeah. Well, yeah, the economics, the fans actually are wishy-washy and they choose when they want to be supportive. I'm not counting. I think the fans in the UK really think they're more important than they really are. Seriously. Like in the US, we have no perspective of importance to a team because we don't matter. We know we don't matter. We go in and pay our money. They entertain us, but the owners don't give a what about fans.
Exactly.
And in the UK, we own the team. We have supported from grassroots, so it's our team is not the owner. And I laugh saying the model has changed years ago, and you're still behind the times. You haven't caught up yet and realized that it's no longer your team. It is the sovereign fund for Saudi Arabia's team for Newcastle now, not Newcastle fan. So having said that, I think Wenger, what he has done for the team, can add value. It can also be a detriment because we talk about his PhD in economics. That's one of the reasons why we didn't get Kante and all those players. He didn't want to play those agent fees. He believed that rationally a player's value is X, and he didn't believe in going over that number. And in a world which is unrealistic, you can't be realistic. In an unrealistic world, you have to be part of the herd and do what the herd does if you want to succeed. Abramovich get all the money from where he got it from in illicit ways. And no one in the UK bat an eyelid. You're a Chelsea fan, you didn't really care, just like Newcastle fan, right? We seem somehow as fans, we don't care about morality when it comes to our team. So long as we're winning, we get a moral compass when it's something else in life, in other parts of society, which is really interesting. And we go down a rabbit hole when we do this. So I say this, Wenger should come back in some capacity, but he's a consultant, our ambassador. He helped build a club. He makes us all happy when we're winning titles. I don't see you can disregard someone who was integral and essential to us as fans who support the team all these years, who enjoyed all these trophies and all this winning, all this prominence, all this euphoria about our team. And then we're saying, you know what? I'm going to disregard you. Go to the waistline. You're old. Go away. Really?
Yeah,
and then fans want support.
But before I let you end, let's put it in perspective, which is what Tony talked about. Tony made a great point. If we're talking about board level, the likes of Ken Fryer, Sir Chips Keswick have no say in how the team is run. Let's remember that. So I know you're saying. I don't want to.
The club should determine what role he can play. If the club can be an advisor.
Your mic.
Yeah, the club should make that decision. This is not about giving him in a role, ambassadorial role, and he's irrelevant. So we don't really. If you're going to bring him in, and you think he can add value in terms of how he advising Arteta, advise the board, advise Kroenke, then yeah, he has a lot of value to add. That's why FIFA hired him. Wenger has more respect outside of the Arsenal fan base than he does with the Arsenal fan base, which is amazing because he's won 10 or 17 trophies. It's amazing how unappreciative we are. I wanted to go because I thought his time was up. But come on, guys. With all the football knowledge, all that experience, all the contacts he has, he can add value. He can help us get players.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good. You know what? I'm agreeing with you on that. I'm agreeing with you. I think you've probably said everything that I needed to say to cover what my thoughts would be about it. Let's go into the chat first before we go to Ebony. Daniel's saying, I was going to say, is he coming back? Chill off in the next. Alex has said, have you ever taken your ex back? Alex is on a roll. Alex is killing it right now. Yeah. Let's not try and flog that horse. But again, Alex, it depends what type of capacity it is. If what Tony and Bertram is saying as a director, a board level, then I think that he has something to add value there. None of those guys make decisions about what happens on about the team. Yeah, the man in charge, the director of Arsenal is Josh Kroenke, not Stan Kroenke. Josh is the man who's running the show. He is the boss of Raul, Edu, Vinay, and Arteta, and what Josh says goes. All he does is get the important things signed off by his dad, Stan. Stan has no correlation of running this club. He doesn't make the choices or anything. All he does is the yes or the no, the decision maker. The man who runs the club is Josh Kroenke. So if we can get someone on the board like Wenger, who serves like Ken Fryer, Chips Keswick, I'm all for that. Bobby Charlton, as much as he goes and sits in the stands and watches Man United games, he don't have a say in what happens in the running of that team. But the thing about where I see Wenger is, I would like to see, Wenger has always reiterated, he is the biggest Arsenal fan. He watches all the games. He's rooting for the team. And look, you know, Arsenal is his passion. You can't take that away from him. And it would be nice to make him a board member, but that's as far as I would go on it. I said I wasn't going to say anything.
Response to Cannon Fodder. Sorry, can I just say, in response to Cannon Fodder, have you ever taken an ex back? Well, if the sex was really good when you left her, did you not try and get one more little press because you thought, you know what, the sex was really good?
Same biscuit from the biscuit tin, and then when you fling the tin away, you find out there's no tin, nothing biscuit. There's no biscuits out there, so you try and dip straight in the biscuit tin again.
Must be the last topic for the day.
Hey, Ebony. Hey, listen. Remember how we left last week's show when my man Lumber come in and was talking about social distancing in the bedroom? Yeah, we're not going to cover that again anyway. Ebony, I'm dead. I'm so dead.
All right,
Ebony,
all
go
right.
on.
Listen, right. Should Arsene Wenger come back? Listen, the only aspect in which if he was to come back, is I agree with everything that everyone else has said. As a director, if he can actually be that person that can. My wife is listening. If he can come back as somebody who can influence what players we get, if he can influence how much money I don't know about the economics, but if he can come back as somebody who can influence the type of players that we get, then great, but only as a board member. You know, what I don't want to see is, you know, him meddling in the running of the team. All right, so keep him in the back. But like I said, you know, if he can persuade Josh, who runs the club, you know, the players that we need, then great. That is it. But as a manager,
I'll say this, which is, I don't hear ex-players, have negative comments about Arsene Wenger, right? If you think about Denilson, for example, with a tough time at the club, didn't produce, he talks about him like a father.
Good point.
So if you are a parent with a young kid, 17, 16, and Wenger come into your house and talk to you about your kid and how he's going to be the support, the environment put him in, wouldn't you want to go to Arsenal?
That's what Mbappe said when obviously Mbappe, the Wenger came over, talked to the dad. Mbappe was like, yeah, that's where I want to go. And obviously his dad had other thoughts, but the player felt valued. Again,
I beg your pardon. It was all about the money. They wanted about £10 million.
Yeah.
Just that kind of agent wanted £10 million. Wenger is not his money anymore, so maybe he move away from that. He doesn't have the financial situation he did, but money has restricted his ability to get a lot of players. They would have gone and played for him because of the financial situation, and him being, I'm going to call it frugal, because he treated it as if it's his own money. That's why he missed out on a number of good players.
Yeah, he did.
I think also, well, you know, with his experience as well in, you know, players and, you know, all right, you know, I mean, he hasn't always signed good players himself, Wenger, but he's actually let a few good players go. So, but bearing in mind that he's got that experience and he's more experienced than Josh Kroenke in running a club, then, you know, I think his expertise and only his expertise in running the club and what players to get will be of value.
Excellent. Anybody else got anything to add to that? No? Okay. So, guys, so that's pretty much it for this week, guys. And listen, we've got quite a few things coming up now because the players are supposedly, again, this was something that we were told about 2 weeks ago. The players were given dates where they were supposed to come back into the training ground. So we know over the next 7 days, the players are supposed to be on some teams, because all teams have got different dates. I'm going to have to go back and chat it and research it in the week. And then next week, that's something we'll cover. We'll talk about that next week and find out if it's something that the teams were going to have started, or if they've just said, look, no, we still can't do it. We're going to sit back and we're going to take our time with it, because they have committed to some of these dates. So yeah, it's going to be important, because if they are back at the training ground, then they're going to be working on their fitness. They're going to be working on set pieces and all the other stuff that they've been working on. It'd be interesting to see where they go. Bertram, do you think that they will be able to hold these dates in place? I'm going to check up on it.
My understanding is that we're going to be the first team to go back to training. It's my understanding. Look, I do think, as I said before, we will finish the season. I see no way all that money goes to waste, and in this environment, given how difficult it would be for teams. Now, I don't know about leagues, right? About the Premier League, I don't know Championship on the other leagues, how that will work. But that's a little challenging, but I do think that we'll go back. I do think that in today's environment, that we are right in terms of social distancing and need to do so, but you can play the league without fans, and you can make sure you complete the season, and I think we'll do that. It's interesting times, and people will be creative to get things done. Ebony alluded to earlier, it would be interesting to see the implications of players, given that they have to train, get fit again, and Premier League is not the easy league. It's like MLS where you can play half pace. It only plays at one pace, so you have to be really in good condition to play the remaining season and then transition over to the next season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
So guys, Ebony and Tony, it looks like the official date is next week, Monday. So tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow. So
4th of May.
All I can imagine that is, Dean, is that basically teams are going to ask the players to come in one at a time, and they might get a check. But there's not going to be, for me, I don't see that as a gathering. Yeah. It's going to be, you come at 9 o'clock, you come at 9:15, you come at 10, you come at 10:15, and they'll just be getting a check through. They'll be going through a sequence of checks, player by player. But what I did want to just touch on very briefly was the story that popped some time ago about players getting together and having little scrimmages, which I'm aware that people are doing that in the States at the moment, where, you've got certain teams are now scrimmaging. My cousin who plays for Florida State, his team, his running back core, they're getting together on the premise that, look, we want to start playing. We want to start getting a feel for this game again. So we're going to get some close, small group scrimmages.
Yeah. If the teams have them tested,
I can see where some of this is going to start coming across to us, because it kind of makes sense where you can say, you know what, we'll have a practice with 6 players at 9 o'clock, and then we'll have another 6 players at 12 o'clock, and another 6 players at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, Tony, what you've just said has been nailed on by Kez as well. Kez is just confirming it, that it is individual. So, and again, I wasn't aware of that. So thanks for bringing it up. I've just got that tomorrow's the date when they are due back in. So it would be like a physical, wouldn't it? Because they've been told what to do on video for all these weeks, for 6 weeks. So it would be, okay, let's find out who's been
snacking and who hasn't.
Yeah. And then they'll weigh them. I guess they will weigh them, and they'll run them through their paces. They'll run them on the spin machine as well. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. Yeah. I would just like to know how far this is going to go. I really would want to understand, where do we go from here? That's where I'm trying to get. I'm
just wondering as well. If it's a case of individual players having individual training, then when do they actually train together? Is it still going to be a case of, all right, the coronavirus, COVID-19 is still at play here, we've got to be very careful. How do we protect the players not getting anything? Because at some point the whole team are going to have to train together.
Yeah, but what you can do is you can have set controlled environments. So let's not forget, most of these players live within a 3 square mile distance of one another. Many of these players all live around London Colney.
Yeah, some of them round the back of where I live in Radlett.
Yeah, so it's not difficult to say, You guys live in isolation in this area. So here's how this is going to work. You guys can come into training, train together, and go home into isolation again.
Yep,
Yeah?
and that's
They're not going home to families of people that are going into London and having to deal with hospital. They're living. Very many footballers live with their wife and their children, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the exception is Pepe, because Pepe was caught playing football with his household, which is his family. His whole family lived. And I remember this very well because I'm very close with Nicholas Anelka. When Anelka came to Edgware, yeah, where I used to go to his house, his whole family stayed in the same house. And that's what happens. You come to a club and you bring your family until you acclimatize and you've bought your new house. You stay in an abode, and your whole family helps you acclimatize to that way of life.
Yeah,
So
Fabregas did that, and one of the issues with Denelson was that he didn't do that.
Right.
And Denelson and that article that we, maybe we should have talked about that. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, because it's really heartbreaking to hear. And I don't, I kind of heard rumblings that those things were going on. So when people would normally dog him out, I would never jump in, and I didn't jump in because I heard these things were going on, that he was suffering from mental illnesses, and he was homesick, and it was starting to affect him mentally. He wouldn't talk to the players. He was sick quite a lot because of it, and it was really bad. So I'm shocked he actually gave that interview, but we'll definitely discuss that next week. Did you guys read it?
It's that wonderful British
I've not read it yet.
which I love so much.
Oh man, it's a killer. It is a killer. When I read that, I was heartbroken. It is on the 101 forum. I believe Tom might have posted it, or somebody to that effect might have posted it. But it's really sad, because just what Tony said about bringing your family with you and everything. The guy was talking about his friends, his mum's cooking, just the feel of home, and he was broken. And it's heartbreaking. Yeah, it's really heartbreaking. Really heartbreaking. But guys, what is Kez saying? Kez is closing us off here. A week after Granit Xhaka, David Luiz, Nicolas Pepe, and Lacazette were all reminded of their social distancing responsibilities. Yeah, so they're going to really find out what's going on when it remains tomorrow, and we'll cover that in next week's show. So guys,
just to touch on that one, Apollo. I buried my uncle a couple of days ago, and
sorry to hear that.
Man.
We had a decent number of people turn up. I know that the government guidance is 5 people, but I know a lot of people have been going to funerals, and it's not unusual to see 20 people in one setting, social distancing. Because if you look at a supermarket, you'd have way more than 20 people in a setting, social distancing.
Yeah. Because most places, I know that they try to get the lines outside to only have a certain amount of people in the store, but depending on how big the store is, it's pretty sizable. I mean, I know when I go out that there are people in there, and it's funny because you stick to one side, they stick to the other, and it's almost like we're like human magnets now. We're all turned, we're all sort of reversed the other way. Yeah, so we're all kind of magnetized away from each other. It's really weird. Bertram, what's your plan for this week? You're just waiting for the fallout of the NFL draft. Are you happy with the Giants NFL? Are you happy with the Giants draft?
People seem to be happy. I've not been happy with the Giants draft for the last 5 years, so I can't be happy. We need the offensive line help because they come into Daniel Jones, so we'll see what happens. We have a couple of players that we have for the offensive line. We'll see if they can protect the quarterback, but he fumbles a lot, so I'm not sure it's going to work. I do work from home, so I get up at 7 o'clock and work until 6 o'clock in the evening, say 5 days a week, and on weekends, I'm pressuring my niece and nephew who have exams coming up to study. So while I'm working, they're here. They go to school remote by Zoom, and then they study in the evening. So I'm here with them, trying to help them get through all of that. But in general, I'm working or watching a lot of CNN because I don't watch a lot of shows. I don't watch Netflix.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling in the same. But I totally mentioned I'm a sports fanatic. I watch football, basketball. I don't watch baseball. A lot of NBA. So it's very difficult for me at this time.
Yeah, I mean, as I said to you, with the number 4 pick, the New York Giants should have taken Jedrick Willis Jr. or they should have taken Justin. They should have gone for the linebacker. I don't know what happened when they made that pick. I was just like, whoa, okay. I think that was the first one I got wrong because remember, Tony, I was like 6 for 9 for the top 10. And that's when it started throwing me out. I was like, whoa.
You are only as good as your GM, right? You're only as good as your GM. And we got our GM from Carolina. He's old school and doesn't realize that we're in a data-driven environment. It's about data. Technology is becoming imperative. It's essential. And if you watched him at the draft line, he has these big notebooks from the 70s that he had all over his desk. You know, people have laptops and iPads that they're all ciphering through and figuring out all the combination and who they have on their boards and the best player. And he has to go search through his notepad to figure it out. By the time he gets to his notepad, he has to give what's his name, Goodell, his pick, and he probably picked the wrong person.
But why was he wearing a mask in his own home, in his own
house? Yeah, that was crazy.
I think that was for TV because I don't know sure what else that would be.
I'm like, dude, you're sitting in your own house. I mean, I've got my FFP3 mask in my office right here. I ain't gonna put it on while I'm talking to you guys.
Nah, I think that's for TV.
What did he think?
He has to make us Giants fans
by catching it off the TV screen.
It's the virus pick that he made because I never agree with his picks.
But listen, I love the safety, the value you got with Xavier McKinney. I thought was brilliant. I thought that was a great pick. He's going to do big things for you there.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we need a lot of help, right? We're just poor offensively and defensively. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. He makes too many mistakes in terms of fumbling, but he looks very poised. He can throw the ball downfield. But look at our defense. I mean, we don't have a defense.
Yeah.
So if you have no defense, you have a poor offensive line. We have a running back and a quarterback and a couple other players. We have a long way to go. Redskins actually, between your number two pick, yes. Your quarterback situation is still iffy. Is Smith going to come back?
You know what the weird thing is? Was Jalen Hurts at pick number 53. Because that kid can throw.
Yeah.
But I think what happens is that Philly went for the best player available, I think. They probably use him in a lot of different situations. So he'll be, they're going to have all these gadget plays, and I'm sure he's going to be involved. He's not going to replace Carson Wentz, right? He's just not going to replace that quarterback.
Yeah.
So they're going to try to be creative with him. Maybe he's wide receiver. Maybe he's behind the center. Maybe he's in a running back situation. I'm sure they're thinking about a lot of situations like a Jackson from Baltimore. They're going to think about how they can utilize his skill set because he can throw really well. He's athletic, and he probably can catch the ball. So interesting.
I think my two favorite picks for the Dolphins was Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle in the second round. He's probably the best fit for the 3-4, though, for the 34 defense. And I think the other guy was, what's that guy they took in the 5th round from North Carolina, the defensive end? Jason Strawbridge. Jason Strawbridge. Good too.
Miami had the best player in the draft.
Best
player in the draft. I know we talked about Chase Young. I know we talked about what's name went to Cincinnati, but a healthy Tua, and that's a big question.
And that's why they haven't got the best player in the draft. I think the Redskins took the best player in the draft. And I just saw an interview with Bruce Smith, the old Buffalo Bills defensive end. He's reached out to him today, and he's going to be coming down to coach him as well. Remember, Bruce Smith also was a Redskin in these last few years.
So I'm going to rephrase that. The most valuable player in the draft, not necessarily the best, the most valuable player in the draft is the most valuable player in any team is quarterback.
Yeah,
quarterback offensively touches the ball every single time. Yeah. And Tua, a healthy Tua, can throw. He's athletic. Miami's team had a good draft.
I think they had a decent draft.
It was okay. I wouldn't say it was great because what the reason I say it was okay is because ultimately when you've got 14 picks in the first 2 rounds and you have another 14 next year in the first 2 rounds, your trading capabilities are so great that literally for me the getaway was CeeDee Lamb, because for me, how did he get to 17? We should have picked him at like 13. We should have traded up.
Yeah, you had the 18th overall, and that was a dud pick. That was Austin Jackson, the offensive tackle at USC. We should have traded up. Terrible pick.
Yeah, but I think what they're doing is, guys, this is not a one-year plan, you know. This is a multi-year plan. You first got to protect your quarterback. People don't realize you got to protect your quarterback. Protect your quarterback.
He's not going to play this season anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to redshirt.
So
he's
it's
not
a
gonna
multi-year
play.
plan. They're going to, next year, they probably have the players they want to choose to bring in, because they've been bad for a little while now, so they need to get better. And they're a patient owner, actually.
Yeah.
It's
funny because it's the only sport that's going on in the world right now. I know that they were talking about there's the football league in Belarus, which is still going on, but ain't nobody watching it. Yeah, and I told the brother last week, and he was like, "Belarus have got a football league." He didn't even know.
Listen, I'm gonna go check it out, man. I just want to see some sport. I'm desperate.
I think it's on Eurosport or something like. Somebody said to me.
Well, I'm hoping in 2 months we'll all be watching the PL.
Well, hey, listen. Bro,
Maybe.
listen. Yeah, listen.
I gotta go.
I got 2 words for you, Bertram. Second wave.
He keeps talking about that.
Listen. Don't discount
the second wave. Even with the second
China
wave,
is still waiting for that second wave.
Yeah, I think they're having
wave won't change anything. Second wave is not going to change anything. People have to live. We're going to play football.
And I have to run.
Yeah, I'm
going to wrap it up there. I just want to thank the panel. You guys are great, as always. Bertram in New York, thank you very much. You can find him on 101 forums. The Ebster, Ebony Kingston, who still hasn't agreed to a date with 18 yet. You can find him on 101 forums.
The radio personality. Call him a radio personality.
Hey, we should do a quiz show on this thing for Mr. and Mrs. What do you ask? And Tony, guys, you can catch him on Twitter and you catch him on 101 as well. But listen, I want to thank the panel and I want to thank you guys in the chat room. All of you are always a blessing to do this show. We do it because of you, because you make it fun. And I love the input that you guys bring in. You're fantastic. And the channel wouldn't be what it is without you guys. And I say that because we've got to 2,000 subscribers. Not an easy thing to do in this day and age of YouTube. I know so much people who are struggling with 100, 200, and they just can't increase the number. So the fact that you guys have been with us and stayed with us and we're still growing, it's all down to you guys. So I just want to say thank you very much for your support. And listen, that's it, guys. We're out. Peace, man.
Peace.
Have a great week.
Nice one.